Clarify, what does it mean to be plugged in or unplugged? That's something I'd like to unpack a little bit.
Well, when you're plugged in, you're sort of sleepwalking through life, right? You kind of comply with everything they tell you to do. These are all the people that you saw wear face diapers, stand on their dots, and comply with everything they told us to do the last few years, right? Those that sort of questioned and leaned back and said, whoa, hold on a second. Let me just see what this is all about. Let me just look at some numbers. Let me evaluate the situation. That's what an unplugged guy sort of does. So it's really the difference between, being at the helm of your own ship and basically being a dead fish floating downstream.
So obviously this is as poignant as ever, this unplugged metaphor, especially during COVID, because, the face diaper analogy. But prior to COVID, it was maybe a little bit harder to distinguish who was plugged in, who was not plugged in, right? Because it kind of became very clear who's questioning the rules that are kind of coming down, trust the science, all this stuff that's happened and transpired over the last couple of years. But prior to that, how would you define someone being plugged in or unplugged from the matrix, so to speak?
Yeah, I think your analogy there is spot on, because the scamdemic really highlighted those that were part of the problem, part of the system, and those that kind of asked questions. Prior to that, it's your guys, your conventional guys that would sit around during the holidays when he was getting browbeat by his wife and just sit there and go, well, happy wife, happy life, golly gee. Those are your standard sort of plugged in sort of guys, right? They just subscribe to the narrative that's been sold to them their entire lives through a steady diet of, Disney films and Hollywood and media consumption and all that sort of stuff.
When did you become unplugged officially?
For me, it was a rather lengthy process. I would say there was three things that happened. The first was my divorce, which was well over a decade ago now. And you don't really get what you kind of expect. I think most guys that get divorced are just like, well, that was like taking a frying pan to the forehead. I didn't expect it to go that way or it to sort of operate that way, because we've kind of been told our entire lives that men and women are equal and, we should treat everybody the same sort of thing. But that's not what you really get when you go through the divorce machine. So that was the first thing that sort of started to slap my face. I guess the second thing was a bit of legislation that came down the pipeline when I was still running my debt business around 2010 to 2013, I think it was. And that was the banks and the credit card companies that made a coordinated and concerted effort to eliminate options that helped Canadian consumers get out of credit card debt, which was a big surprise, because you'd think, you've been told your entire life the government's there to sort of take care of you. You vote for them, they're going to provide you with roads, they're going to provide you with services and things that will allow you to live the best possible life that you can. But through this lobbying effort, I discovered, nope, that's not how they work. And I guess the third thing was, after my divorce, I got involved with this gal for about 3 years that was a single mom with a couple of kids. And, a few things happened that typically happen to most guys during their relationships with women that happened to me. And I was just like, okay, I got to get my head screwed on right. There's all these things that keep happening to me in my life that sort of destroy my safe world theory. And it's nobody else's fault but mine, because I'm an ownership guy. I always say, do the work. And I sort of had to dive down this rabbit hole of asking questions. And, answers came to me when I started asking questions.
Gotcha. So give me the final question with the plugged and unplugged. Give me the biggest benefit of being unplugged, and give me the biggest, I guess, disadvantage of being plugged in.
Well, I guess the biggest benefit is you live life on your terms. You can then become the best version of yourself. You're at the helm of your own ship. Being plugged in, you're just like everybody else. You're like about 95% of the population, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
most people are plugged into society's lies.
Well, how do you know at what point do you realize like you're plugged in?
You don't, because you're plugged in.
Right. So how does someone like...
It's usually chaos or trauma. So for a lot of guys, it's, holy crap, I didn't think my wife would cheat on me because we took vows together to love and to hold in sickness and health and richer and poor. Why did she start banging Kevin from sales, right? So it's some form of chaos that usually breaks the safe world theory for them that they subscribe to. And then it forces them to realize, okay, there's some new information that I need to take in here.
All right, last question on this is, what's step one to getting unplugged? You know how they say, like in the 12 steps, the first thing is realizing that I do have a problem or whatever it may be. What's step one to getting unplugged?
Step one is kind of two steps. You've got to see the world for what it is, and then you've got to see everybody else's bullshit, and then you have to see your bullshit, right?
Never fun to have to look in the mirror and be like, buddy, you are plugged in. You're 20 pounds overweight. You're broke as shit. You're not that good looking, and you're not that cool, and you're not in high school anymore. So
It's
kind of hard to.
Yeah, well, if you ever watch
that.
any of my call-in segments from my podcast, a lot of guys are like, but I'm a high-value guy. And it's like, no, you make $50,000 a year and you look like you're about 50, 60 pounds overweight. It's like, let's maybe start with that first.
First step is recognizing the problem.
So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another, or if you want to watch the entire Soscast, click right here.